cool to be part of something that could help people. And I
Right.
think it's easy to get stuck on how it's helping you. It's hard to put in perspective to
Mhm.
adolescents about things outside of themselves. So I think like stressing that idea is really important.
That is
It's
true.
hard.
All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. And it is yet another episode of Humans of Clinical Research. And who we have here today is Sophie Olko. She is a previously participated in the study, not with us, not with Stride or anything like that. But, when she was about 15 years old, she was part of the derm study. And, she is bringing a lot of the perspective on the adolescents from the adolescent side actually, and the journey that she has had, and pretty much everything else that we think that we should know of from the adolescent point of view. So here we go. Sophie, if you can give maybe a brief introduction of yourself, what your life looks like right now, what's happening, and let's start from there.
Okay. I am an academic sophomore, soon to be junior in college. I love art, reading, writing, any way to use my brain creatively, really. I work
Yes.
in the kitchen for the most part when I'm working. I work at Whole Foods and then I work for a catering company on the side. And I'm pretty much always busy with either studies or work. Recently, I was able to, with my dermatologist, get on Accutane. So I've been working with that, but I've had issues with my skin since middle school. So yeah.
I see. And so I hear a lot of busy schedule. You
Yes.
study, you work, you take care of, your health and, pretty much all the 9 yards.
Mhm.
Um, what is your most favorite part? What is exciting or what excites you the most? Maybe I'll go with that.
I've been lucky to have a few commissions lately, for my art, so that's been really exciting, and there's so much to explore in the kitchen as well, and I've gained a lot of, um, really fun experience that I've wanted to have ever since I watched my first episode of Cupcake Wars, so it's
That's
been
fun.
really yeah, it's been really great to just be able to tap into all of the things that I wanted to have more experience in ever since I was little.
Right. So maybe I'll now pivot to the research side. So tell me, what do you think when you hear the clinical trial or research study?
You know, I've watched a lot of Grey's Anatomy. I'm starting on 5 just right now. So,
It is still
you know
my favorite show.
right, they're awesome and a great way to pass the time, but it's really important to have the opportunity to make advances in medicine, but I think a lot of people, including myself, are kind of like weary going into it because yes, you could potentially have all these benefits, but then, just as with any kind of medicine, new or old, there's that long list of potential side effects that are kind of scary and you don't really know if it's going to benefit you or not. So, on the one hand, it's potentially great. And on the other hand, it's kind of an apprehensive new trial, which is in the name. Um, and you don't know exactly where it's going to go.
I see. So tell me a little bit about your journey on your research. I know you have participated. Tell me, what was your first thought when you heard about it? Give me a little bit of an idea on like how was your discussion with your dermatologist,
Mhm.
and how exactly the journey went.
Well, I had a lot of friends around me who weren't struggling with acne as much as I was.
Hmm.
So or, like, managing it. It just seemed they found, like, the popular product that everyone was using, and it just kind of worked. And for me, I tried a bunch of things, and I tried them consistently, and it just wasn't happening. So when my, mom and dermatologist told me that there's this clinical trial that could potentially, like, improve, if not help me completely manage my, acne, I was really excited
Hmm.
because it wasn't asking anything, like, extravagant or like super strange. It was just asking me to, potentially help me
Right.
get rid of something that
Just
was
get
just
rid of,
bothering
yeah.
me. Yeah. So I was excited about it, but I think, maybe because I was young, maybe because I wasn't as into researching everything before going into it as I am now that I'm older. I kind of wasn't fully aware of everything that it would encompass. Like, I knew that it was going to take place for X amount of time. I knew I was going to be going in to see the dermatologist. They were going to check how everything was going, make
Right.
sure that everything was going well, or if it wasn't, if I had done something change, what I could fix. Um, but I wasn't thinking that it would end without me being able to continue with it, with the
Hmm.
progress I made, if that makes any sense. Like, I saw improvements, the drug was helping me, and I believe it was a topical, so
Hmm.
it was nice and easy,
Right.
and I just thought, "Oh, well, even though this is, a trial," I don't think it clicked in my head. I was just like, "Well, I'm trying out this new product. I'm just gonna be able to continue using it." I don't think that it really was, and maybe because I was younger, it was more on my mom's side, the medical things, but I wasn't aware that it was just gonna stop cut and dry. So that
I
was a
see.
little hard for me. But yeah.
So was that not something discussed with you at the beginning? Because usually, what we try to do is that we try at the time of consenting, like how exactly the study design is and, what's going to happen. And once you're done with the studies, like what are the things that can happen if there is an extension study, if there is something else that's going on, or, if there is any like compassionate program or anything like that, So none of those conversation happened at that point of time?
Um, Not that I can recall. I remember the instructions for applying the product. Um, I was probably told the duration
Hmm.
of the time of use. Like, I would check in every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every month, um, to make sure that everything was going okay, like I mentioned earlier. But
Right.
it I wasn't offered, like, a secondary option for after the trial
Got it.
closed,
Right.
so it was kind of just a moot point,
Yeah.
I guess. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's yeah. See, now that is something a real gap that you're talking about. And I'm
Mhm.
very glad that you brought it up because we look at it, hey, patient completed the study from end to end, compliant fully, and it's working. We got the data that we needed. But now there is nothing else that we're providing. And I understand that there is also limitation in terms of like, okay, the whole idea for the study was to actually get studying about that drug, the effectivity and, efficacy and safety data and everything. And once we approve or once FDA approves, then
Mhm.
it goes on and onto the shelf and be able to use it. But I know that there has been a lot of changes in terms of like study design where they have like an extension study or something like that where
Right.
the patients who have participated into the study, they have a chance to continue in some or the other manner unless they don't want to be part of the study and
Right.
things like that. So, but I do agree with the gap that a communication should be happening or some other option should have been provided to you at the end of the study that, okay, now that the study is closing, you're not receiving any sort of a medication, but you will need it.
Mhm.
Um, so these are your options and things like that. So I think a little bit of a more detailed conversation with, the PIs and physicians would be a good idea. Something that is kind of like what stood out of this whole situation is that when we're ending the study, a lot of the patient feels like, okay, now what? What do I do now? Like
Mhm.
where so like I did the last episode in this podcast and there was also a patient and she pointed out that I wanted to know how the data looks like. I don't need to know the exact data, but I want to
Mhm.
know if it's helping, how many people did it help, what overall the profile looks like and things like that. A very high level, just an understanding that hey, if I've been part of this study for X amount of time or months, I just want to know if it helped or not and things
Right.
like that. So there are some unanswered questions that you as a participant would have, and I feel like there should be a platform to kind of for you guys to communicate that. So something that an easy I feel like not easy, but like a low hanging fruit that we can grab on and we can try to fix that. So
Yeah.
hopefully sponsors and CROs and the clinical developers are listening to this and they would get your perspective on the other side, because at the end of the day, every trial is for the patient. We're trying to change something. We're trying to bring a new treatment to patients. So your voice matters a lot. So thank you for bringing that up, Sophie.
Yeah. I like what you were saying. Well, I mean, I don't like it, but the point that you made about the gap, I completely agree because everyone who's participating or creating or involved in the clinical trial has a different perspective on what and goal on what they're trying to get out of it. And
Right.
for the patient, especially younger ones, I don't think they see it so much as, oh, I'm contributing to this trial so that medical researchers can gain data and I can contribute to science.
Hmm.
They're thinking, oh, this can help me.
Right.
Maybe it'll only go on for this amount of time, but oh, this could potentially help me, or even in more extreme cases, provide a path towards a cure for something for me. And if it just ends and there's no other resources, it's a problem because they don't know where to go and they're like, I mean, hopefully the doctors help them with other
Hmm.
resources
Yeah,
and connections, but sometimes that's not always the case, and they're kind of just left lying flat, and maybe they try and participate in another trial with hopes that it'll yield similar results, and they're just stuck in the same spot again, and
that is
it's
true.
hard.
Yeah. And Sophie, what did you tell your friends when you were part of this, when you were participating in the study? How did you um just give me that idea? Like, how's your conversation with your friends about this?
I was excited because there was
Mm.
something that was actually working, and I was it's as a woman in society, there's this even as a younger one, the beauty routines and the skincare and all of that is very
Matters.
romanticized and,
Yeah,
important for the
of
like
course.
beauty standards. So I was like, "Oh, look, I have something it's from this trial that I'm doing and it's working and my skin is looking better and it's really exciting. And for them it probably didn't mean as much as it did to me because I was the one who was actually being impacted, but it's exciting, and I think if one of my friends were to have done it instead of me, I would have been excited for them as well and curious about,
Nice.
joining perhaps or just being excited overall.
Yeah, that's true. So maybe give me your idea. Like, if the research industry, let's say if we are trying to recruit young people, you
Mhm.
know, either as a participant or somebody as a research professional, like your dad, for example, right? What do you think that, like, how should the approach be for young people?
I think that, you know, it's at the end of the day, it's a way to solve or, like, help with whatever, like, say for dermatology, like, helping manage acne.
Hmm.
Um But it's I think stressing the point that it's for research, for science, and it's not just like, yes, they're going through it, but it has, like, a broader purpose than just what they're experiencing. Because I think it's easy to
Hmm.
get stuck on that personal level where you're just thinking about how it impacts you, how it impacts your
Right.
life, but stressing, "Oh, like, this could help people. We wanna see your reaction so that other people can benefit from it as well, and then once it's done, we wanna be able to reach out to you for possible other examples that could help with this
Right.
issue, or
Okay.
we can just direct you on another path." Because I think that even having been suggested, like, a stronger dose of something as simple as benzoyl peroxide to help with my, like, management of skin issues would have
Hmm.
been um,
A
more
help.
useful than just being
Right.
left in the dust. So,
Yeah.
definitely that impact because, it's cool to be part of something that could help people. And I
Right.
think it's easy to get stuck on how it's helping you. but
Correct.
having a good
Well,
balance of
it's also
both.
vice versa as well, right?
Right.
It also could be that, hey, guess what? It's helping you, but in addition, you're also making an
Mhm.
impact in the future or for the
Right.
future, folks and things like that. So maybe that's an approach. That's a very fresh in a way, actually, Sophie. I haven't heard this in a way that we like 15-year-old or adolescents, for example, like they think that, okay, it's going to help me first and
Mhm.
then it's going to start. And it is sometimes it's just how the reality is, but you do have to connect it through that and then make them able to see what the overall impact looks like. And, there's also a greater good side of it, but
Mhm.
sometimes you're not able to connect that point to an adolescent at that time. But
Yeah.
if you're giving one and additional thing just comes as a bonus, maybe that just might just help out. So,
Right, and it's kind of like what you were saying, from the last episode of your podcast about the data and the potential benefits on a wider scale. Even if
yep,
it's not something concrete or backed with evidence of the completed trial, having the knowledge of, like, possible outcomes could even be, helpful to even possibly I mean, obviously, you don't wanna skew the data in hopes of
right.
favorable results, but
Of course.
just it's hard to put in perspective to teens, especially
Mhm.
adolescents, about things outside of themselves. So I think, like, stressing that idea is really important because it's not like they don't wanna make an impact, but if they're
Right.
able to help both themselves and others, it's
Yep,
definitely a
yep.
bigger leap.
I agree. So maybe let's delve into, your dad's side of the profession. What is your conversation? Because I know your dad is a research professional.
Mhm.
So how's your conversation? What's your kind of like vision on it?
I think it's really cool that he gets to help people. He's done a lot of stuff. And I know that he likes being able to make an impact and connect with others,
Hmm.
even if he does a lot of logistical stuff before he gets to get in contact. But he gets to talk with doctors and talk with people to set up these trials to make a difference. And I know
Right.
that some of them to him are can be more personal than others,
Hmm.
because we're all impacted by different, facets of, like,
Right.
medical, uh, you know, programs, solutions, and, maladies. So
True.
I know that he loves to be able to help people, and he's always loved medicine. He's been taking care of my sprained ankles, knees, back problem, injuries, and all my other siblings for a long time, so I know it's important to him, and I know that he works hard, and it's really cool to like, when I'm explaining to people, sometimes people don't even know what their parents do, and
Yeah.
so when people ask me, "Oh, hey, like, what does your dad do?" And, I tell them, "Oh, yeah, he helps with clinical trials and stuff like that." They're like, "Oh,
Right.
that's so cool." I didn't know that, like, he
There's a
did
few
that,
like that.
you know? Yeah. So,
Right.
it's cool. I'm proud of him. Yeah.
Nice. Is there any question that you probably want to ask him about his profession and you haven't asked? Maybe this could be your opportunity.
You know, when can I go to the next conference? No. Um, no, I don't ask a lot about the nitty-gritty details. I know that he has to connect with a lot of people, and that can be
Right.
really challenging. And we've talked about how some people are very impossible to reach,
Hmm.
even in the digital access age, you know? I
Yeah.
think I would ask him, I don't even know if he would be able to answer, like, what's the most out there clinical trial that's going on right now? What are you most excited to help people with?
Right.
What's the most ambitious clinical trial that's out there on the market? And were you one of the people that helped set it up? You know, it there's a bunch of really cool questions that, he's probably not able to answer. Um, but those
Yeah.
those were
Not
definitely
yet.
some of my top ones.
Right. That's pretty cool. And you did bring a lot of points. Like you would have a lot of information already available in a way that you might not have the answer, but like with help with like, the TikToks and like different threads and there's so many platforms out there now, right?
Right.
Um what is your guys' process? And when I say your guys' I'm combining all of the adolescents, okay? So
Okay.
what is your process to gather any information or learn something new or let's say research, for example. Let's say if you want to establish a career in a research,
Mhm.
hypothetically,
Right.
I'm not sure if that's what you want to do or anything like that, but you can also tell me that. But
Mhm.
what's your guys' process? I want to know.
I wish people adolescents, to narrow it down, got less information from TikTok, you know, or like social media, because there are definitely some creators out there and even some doctors I know, like dermatologists. I've seen a lot of dermatologists and
Yeah,
some plastic surgeons on there who will give their advice. But even then, you don't know who's putting on what mask. Um,
right. The
and it's kind
credibility
of
of it.
preach to us, "Oh, make sure that you cross check, you double check." But if you're
Right.
getting like spending X amount of time on Instagram Reels, you're not
Mm-hmm.
gonna be like, "Oh, I saw this one video, so I'm gonna go on a deep dive research hunt." No, you're just gonna share it with your friend and be like, "Oh my goodness, did you know this?" And then you're probably gonna leave it at that. I know during college research, because a lot of final exams or, like, papers, they will have sort of prep work before the
Mm-hmm.
final assignment where you have to use specific websites that, like, the college has paid for, like JSOTR
Right.
or, like, academic research sites, and they have us test a bunch of those and then work on our, like, citations and stuff like that. But
Right.
for the average teen who's not pursuing schoolwork, the normal way to look into things is, Google search,
I see.
Google search summarization through AI. A lot of AI. I'm very iffy on my stance about using AI for that. I try to avoid it.
I was about to go there. I'm about to go there actually, because you
Yeah,
cannot
go ahead.
not talk about AI in this time in the age. But let me start with the social media first.
Mhm.
Um, you know, how's your take on not a take, but like which social media, what kind of give me an insight, like what gets you the most, as in like, you know, attracted or like drawn towards or things like that. Dude. There's so many reels and there's so much content out there and
Mhm.
things like that. Like what is what is the norm or a new in your era? Because this is a whole new era that we're learning right now.
Sometimes there are really cool animations. I'm a
Yeah,
sucker for art, so the animations will really draw me in. Um,
right.
but sometimes it's really strange captions.
I see.
Um, that like if the video won't load right away, you kind of stay on it
Hmm.
because you're like, what does this caption mean? Like eye-catching stuff. I some people for some, it's like weird AI mishmatch or animation things, but again, I try to
Right.
avoid that. Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, fast-paced content, sometimes 2 times speed. Sometimes people will
Right.
see something and it's like maybe it has something that really interests them, but they're not willing to stay on it. And that's a problem with shortening attention spans in our adolescence, but, you know, and they'll just push the little hold down the side button and 2 times speed, and they go through the whole thing, then they scroll on.
Yeah.
Um,
You're bringing so many good points, Sophie.
there's
I
so many
think
things to talk about, really.
we'll have another episode for those. And tell me AI, like do you listen, it's pretty much in everybody's computer now. I feel like Google.com has been replaced with maybe ChatGPT or something like that, you know?
Mhm,
So it's just everything gets cross-checked with it starts probably with Google, gets cross-checked with, AI and
mhm.
so many tools out there. That is something, how do you think, from your point of view, how is that impacting the research side of it at all? Or would it impact the research side?
Maybe not research on a clinical and like scientific scale because
Right.
I mean, hopefully they've been doing lots of research and they've consulted papers and they've consulted peers and they know how to cross check. I think cross
Right.
checking is a very, very important skill and, overall resource that a lot of people don't utilize enough that skill because with like you were saying Google, I don't use Google. I use um environmentally friendly search engines like Ecosia and like this ocean one as well to help benefit environmental cleanups through stuff like that. Anyways, I think like you get the Google AI summary, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes they'll have website links, right? But if
Yep.
you need the answer to a question really quickly,
Yeah.
or you can't find a simple answer. People are too excited when they find a simple answer to a question. You have to be willing to break it down and get into
Right.
the nitty-gritty, and I think that is a big problem in,
Yeah.
like, smaller scale research. I mean, hopefully not
Agreed.
larger scale research, I don't really deal with that a lot. But for teens, because even something as simple as diving into textbooks to look
Hmm.
for answers that aren't explicitly stated
Right.
is harder to come by. It's probably less to do with the availability of AI and more to do with, again, just shorter attention spans and just wanting to get it done instead of to have it be done well.
Right.
Um, But yeah, I mean, I know some people will really go deeper into things, but only if it's something that they're interested in. So it really just depends on who you're talking to, I guess.
Yep. Yep. So maybe again, this is a hypothetical. If your friend looked at the social media ad
Mm,
on the clinical trials, what do
right.
you think, based on whatever is going on right now, what do you think their gut reaction would be at first? And
Mhm.
what would be their thoughts on it?
So, okay, say they're scrolling Instagram Reels
Yep.
and a little ad pops up for a clinical
Hmm.
trial, right? I think the automatic thought for me, normally, because social media, again, is just one of those things where you can't trust all your sources. I would kind of just be like, if I click on this link, am I going to get scammed right now?
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's where their mind would go to.
Hmm.
Sometimes if it's like, um, sometimes popular creators who are doctors or promote things like that, if they advertise maybe a clinical trial or just some information about it, it would be more trustworthy. But an ad, I don't know if I would be willing to look into that because there are so many ways to create ads and even if you did click on it and you weren't infected with some sort of virus, like there was information on there, some people are taught, oh, if it doesn't have a .org, .gov, or .edu, then I'm not gonna trust it or like some other thing
Correct.
other than .com. So it depends because not everyone has the same education on how to look into things. Some people are more susceptible to different information. If it's not catchy, they're not gonna click on it. If it looks fake, they're just gonna scroll past it and they won't
Yep.
remember it in the next 30 seconds. So it
Right.
really just depends.
Gotcha. So, do you want to be a research professional? I'm just going to ask you that. What are your thoughts on it?
I recently found out about the field of art law.
Oh,
Um, I'm so technically, yes, lawyers do a lot of research, but on the
do
medical side, I don't think so. I
not so
love
much.
science and I find it very interesting
Right.
and but STEM fields have been consistently difficult for me um to do well in. Like I was in the biomedical program in high school and
Okay.
I was lucky that we have that program at all, but it's the PLTW biomedical pathway. And it's really cool, and it goes all throughout the 4 years, and
Hmm.
there's medical intervention, human body systems, principles of biomedical science, and all of that to get, high school students interested. And I that also gave me an upper hand on research because we did a lot of research projects in that class, um, about, like, genetics and different body systems and drugs and bacteria and
Yep.
all that. But I think it's really hard if you have a passion for something and you're not textbook good at it,
Right.
you know? Really it's difficult for me. So it wasn't something that I was confident that I would be able to go into and succeed because I knew that if I couldn't get past a B in chemistry, how was I gonna do organic chemistry? You know? So
Yes, that you'll have to go through a lot of rigor on
a lot
those.
of rigor.
Yeah, right.
So could I
Well,
hit
I was
the
only
book?
trying. I'm just trying to get like more and more research
Mhm,
professionals, like the youth being interested in this. This is it almost sometimes feels like an uncharted territory for a lot of the, young folk. So that's
mhm.
all I was trying. Sophie.
Yeah.
So no pressure there. but but as long as let me put you on a spot a little bit. Um, if without looking up, of course, on the AI or anything like that, if you were to walk me through the process on the drug approval or the how the research works, would you know that, or do you think a lot of people from your age group would know that?
Ooh. I know it has to be theorized, researched, and then obviously it has to go through the clinical trial phase.
Right.
And then I think there's like a consulting process, maybe between other doctors, and then I know that eventually it gets to like the CDC.
So maybe I'll help you out. So basically, it is the medication that obviously gets found in the lab. It
Mhm,
gets tested on a lot of the preclinical studies, which is like, animals and things like that, just to get the safety data. Once those are looking good and promising and all of that, then the phase one starts in the human. So phase one is all about, looking at the safety of the medication and, very smaller patient populations. So not hundreds of patients or thousands of
mhm,
patients. Sometimes there are healthy volunteers, studies and all of those. And some indications are we are looking for like patients with that targeted disease. And we look at the most tolerated dose, the maximum tolerated dose, and all of those. And, that it goes from like phase one to then phase two and then phase three. And at the end of the phase three, um, if the drug gets approved by FDA, so by this time you've already collected a lots and lots of safety data and efficacy
mhm,
data to see how exactly this drug works and how better is it curing? Is it better than the other standard of cares and things like that? So a lot of different angles are looked at. And then it goes onto the pharmacy shelves where it's open for everybody to, prescribe those medication and things like that. And there's also a phase four study that's like an, extended like long-term studies where they see the long-term effect if there is anything or, that's kind of like ongoing. So this is like overall the skeleton of it. So just a
mhm.
little idea on it. So now you know those.
Yeah. Maybe a few years ago I would have been more brushed up, but
Hey,
yeah, I don't think that's common knowledge
right,
amongst.
right. And this is the reason why I wanted to know, like, what is it that I wanted to gauge, like how much of a research is really kind of well known, which I can tell, like, even for the patient recruitment, we do tons of advertisements and marketing, and there's also a taboo of it, right? So a lot of the people would look at, or they would hear clinical research and then they're like, nope, that's a guinea pig part of it. I don't want to
Mhm,
be with that. And then, it's like, I'll wait until it gets approved or anything like that. So that's just something I want to bring more and more awareness, from participants like you who have been part of the study, somebody who can also increase in awareness to other potential patients or anybody that, hey, it is not as bad as you think, but there
mhm,
are a few gaps that I want sponsors to hear so we can fill those. And there is a much better communication between patients, us as a, research sites and, physicians and sponsors and things like that. So there are so many people involved to bring a one drug on the pharmacy shelves, but at the
right.
same time, I want to make sure that the patients are heard and, they can bring their perspective. So
Mm,
this is why we wanted to do the humans or clinical research, and you are the perfect candidate for that. So
thank you.
all right. So, well, with that being said, I think this concludes our episode, and you've brought some great, feedback and perspectives. And I think I probably will reach out to you for any sort of a, idea on the refreshing idea on, the advertise on the youth part of it and, any of those studies. Well, thank you so much, Sophie, for joining the humans of clinical research, and we'll definitely have another sort of a episode on the AI and the technology
Oh,
part of
yeah.
it. Something.
Thank you for
All
having
right.
me.
Thank you.